I think by now most of y'all are familiar with the format of the videos and the style that I like to present here on my channel. I don't try to be some game-breaking, super smart, analytically thinking insider. I don't try to be the best analyst in the world. I'm just some random dude who makes videos about stuff he sees on the internet, and just happens to have people watch those videos. I'm very grateful. I always have been. But this is one of these videos where we don't even really have an actual topic. Instead, I wanted to respond to a series of ideas that I've been seeing percolating all over Twitter the past few days or so. You see, you already saw from the title and the thumbnail, you know whom we're talking about. We're talking about the Vancouver Canucks and one of their highest paid players in JT Miller, and we are also talking about Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers, the newest top paid player in the NHL. The reason we are talking about these two together is because of a very simple series of discussions that have started up online. I want you to go over onto Twitter, or X. I still never want to call it that habitually, but go over to Twitter if you have it, and search in the search bar, Miller Draisaitl. That's it, just their two last names side by side. If you search Miller Draisaitl and you go over onto latest, you will see so many tweets from Canucks fans and Oilers fans arguing, clamoring, just kind of getting under each other's skin, a big back and forth as to this JT Miller versus Leon Draisaitl debate that has started up on Canucks and Oilers Twitter. It's kind of outrageous, and I wanted to go out there and respond, give my 2 cents, and kind of break down what's going on here, and why both fan bases seem to be super angry at the other when it comes to debating these two guys. Now, I'll say this, first and foremost, both Canucks fans and Oilers fans can be irrational at times. There are always going to be bad apples in any fan base that you encounter on social media. It's just unfortunate that platforms like Twitter and Reddit and YouTube give some of the bad voices a bigger spotlight. Heck, maybe it's hypocritical for me to be saying that out of all the people in the world, but when it comes to JT Miller and Draisaitl, I feel like this entire thing started, of course, when Draisaitl signed his big contract extension. $14 million a year, 8 years long. It's a big deal. It's the biggest deal in the NHL. And a lot of people, Canucks fans that I saw, replied to the Draisaitl extension saying, hey, look at that. Leon Draisaitl's making $14 million. Does that not make the JT Miller contract look even better? JT Miller, if you needed the scoop, is making $8 million a year till the end of 2030. He is a Vancouver Canucks superstar caliber forward who had 100 points last season, and he's only making $8 million. Leon Draisaitl can get maybe upwards of 120 or 130 points in a season, but he's going to be making $14 million a year soon. So the question is, who would you rather have? Miller or Draisaitl? Contracts included. You had a lot of Canucks fans responding to the Draisaitl signing with laughter. Oh, look at that, paying a guy so much money and he's going to be taking up so much percentage of the cap. Look at our guy in Miller, he's making so much less and he's producing a lot of points too, so Miller is a better asset to have. And then you had yourselves Oilers fans responding to the Canucks discourse in an even more hateful way. A lot of people saying things like, oh, Draisaitl would be the best player in Vancouver Canucks history if he had ever played for Vancouver. Funny how Canucks fans cannot seem to get the Oilers out of their minds. Funny how Leon Draisaitl is being compared to guys that are so inferior to him, like JT Miller. And after these salty Oilers fans replied, you saw even saltier Canucks fans going back and just kind of taking the bait too. This evolved into an endless debate that seems to be even going on until now between Canucks fans and Oilers fans as to whom would you rather have on your team, Draisaitl or Miller. In the midst of these conversations, you've got Oilers fans and Canucks fans calling each other losers and calling each other names and questioning the intelligence of either party. It's pretty sad, but it's pretty normal internet stuff. Here's the thing you have to consider when breaking down a Draisaitl versus Miller conversation. How much does $6 million in cap savings actually cost? That sounds like a ridiculous question, but it's kind of like that Kendrick Lamar thing. How much does a dollar really cost? How much does $6 million cost? If $6 million to you is about a 20-point player, for example, an extra 3 wins on a season, maybe an extra 15 to 20 goals on a season, then okay, I think it's fair to say that your evaluation of that money would be appropriate when you compare Miller and Draisaitl, because Leon Draisaitl, in his best seasons as an NHL player, posted up 55 goals, 120 points. Those were 2 separate seasons, you get what I mean, but JT Miller was 20 points behind in terms of his peak performance and about 20 goals behind in terms of his peak performance. So JT versus Leon, if the discrepancy in points and goals could be evaluated as about $6 million worth of value, then okay, you can say that it's pretty even. It's not really a big steal or anything, it's a pretty fair deal for Draisaitl to be making $14 million. But then you have to think about the contrary. Okay, in my mind's eye, for me personally, I'd say that a $6 million player should be able to get you maybe 30 goals, maybe 65, 70 points, and he can maybe give you an extra 3 to 4 wins on a year too. An extra 30 goals, if you separate that from JT Miller, hey, that's a little bit more than what Leon Draisaitl is capable of doing. Heck, maybe Draisaitl is a 60-goal caliber kind of guy, but he just hasn't shown that off yet because he's been too busy potting up 50-50-50 goal seasons. Now, I get that's kind of a ridiculous way to evaluate it, but that's just kind of how my mind responds to this. I think that JT Miller, for what he is very valuable and very good on the contract that he's getting. Quinn Hughes, you could say the same thing. He's making fewer dollars than JT at $7.8 million a year. That guy just had 90 points, and he could maybe even get 100 if he's lucky next year. So I do think that there is reason to debate, question, kind of bring up the differences between JT Miller and Leon Draisaitl, because one of them is the highest paid player in the NHL, and another one is a divisional rival top-tier center. If it were up to me, if I had to choose which contract I think is better, of course the Miller contract is better because it's like almost half of what Draisaitl is making, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge that Draisaitl is the better player. And honestly, I think that the idea of Draisaitl being the best Canuck ever if he were to be a Canuck isn't really too accurate, because if you wanted to go by, okay, if he played for this team, he would be the best player to ever play for this team, I do think that had the Maurice Richard Trophy just been around longer in the 90s officially, I do think that Pavel Bure would take the cake for the most talented Vancouver Canucks player of all time. And heck, even if you wanted to say limited stints count, Alex McGillney, very talented. Mark Messier, very, very talented. Although his captaincy and presence in Vancouver was kind of a stain in the team's history, that's another Edmonton-Vancouver parallel that you could draw here if you really wanted to stretch it out. But either way, going back to the main topic here, I feel like the Miller versus Draisaitl debate is kind of stupid, mostly because I feel like the people that are arguing about it seem to be coming at it from different perspectives. Oilers fans are debating the absolute top-tier magnitude of greatness talent that is Leon Draisaitl. Vancouver Canucks fans are valuing their cap space, which is, you know, also valid, but not the same angle in which Oilers fans are going at this from. You could even say that Leon Draisaitl, if he were to become a free agent, maybe even would have been able to get a $15 and a half, $16 million AAV contract. So with that in mind, you could debate that Draisaitl did take a discount. I don't think it's all too particularly great of an argument, but I do think it does exist. So at the end of the day, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you had to choose one team with one contract, let's say it's the JT Miller contract at $8 million apiece for the same guy right now who is 31 years old. Would you take Miller at 31 signed to $8 million a year till 2030? Or Leon Draisaitl at 28 years old, so 3 years younger, signed to a significantly higher dollar amount, but who can produce more points and score more goals? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.